welcome. So excited to be with you all today. It's Friday. I can't believe it. Kind of like, is it Tuesday? Is it Thursday? No, today Danielle said it's Friday. So we're so excited to be with Molly. Thank you for joining us today. And I want to start off with you telling us a little bit about yourself, who you are, for those that might not know who you are. Let's hear your story.
So I am an almost 25 years, be 25 years in August, Air Force spouse, but I started my Air Force career as a brat at the age of 4 when my mom married into it. And I think I was telling you the other day, I think I only have like 4 or 5 months that I have not been covered by an ID card. So when we PCS, I have like 3 volumes of medical records that come in with me, and they look at me like, oh my gosh, you're not on the EFMP. I'm like, it's okay. It's 40 years worth of stuff, almost 50 years worth of stuff. We're good.
Right.
So.
I love it. And so you said 25 years. So where are some locations that you've been throughout those?
Oh, well, we counted the other day. I think in our married life, we've had 13 assignments. So almost once every 2 years.
Wow.
So everywhere from North Dakota to Alaska to Virginia. And then we were lucky to spend 6 years over in Europe. So.
Oh, nice. That's exciting.
Yes.
Do you have a favorite location, or they're all special in a certain way?
They're all special in a certain way. Most beautiful place I've ever lived is Alaska. Most beautiful place I've ever been in my whole life. And we've seen a lot of the world. That's where we plan on retiring someday. Okay. So hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, excellent. Well, let's jump in then to, I know we're going to be doing a craft later. And for everybody that's joining us and they might not have the supplies in front of them, we wanted to make sure this was something super simple that you could just grab whatever's in your house and kind of put it together and create something. So what should we get, as we're having this conversation, what should our friends get out there to collect before we start our craft?
Pencil, simple scissors, glue stick, or double-sided adhesive, or you can even use Elmer's glue. I'm a fan of glue sticks. 2 sheets of white paper. One of them you're going to cut up. So like this is a failed printer paper that I just reuse, have a scrap pile for the kids. And then I have a bunch of markers or pens or crayons or something to color with.
Okay. Yeah, I was looking for markers today and I found some that I had to dust off, and then they didn't even work anymore. So I think it's time to upgrade my marker collection. That's so sad, but this is why I love this, is because we're taking time for ourselves to finally just take a deep breath and just get into something fun and crafty and with all of our friends. So this is great. Okay, so you have a website called Eat Craft Run, which I love. So let's start with Eat. What do you share on your website about that? Why did you start with Eat? Tell us more about that.
Well, so it's obviously the playoff of Eat, Pray, Love. When I started it, the website years ago, that book was real popular. So that's where the name came from. But I actually started blogging and sharing all of that stuff eons ago. When we moved to Europe, we had little kids and the grandparents were upset that we were taking the kids away from them. So I started it as a way to kind of share our activities. But what I found most people wanted to know about was what we were eating and where we were eating and where did it come from. And so it kind of started as a recipe sharing place that's had many iterations, but those tend to be a staple that I go to.
Yeah.
And when I don't know what to blog about, that's an easy thing to throw in there, is whatever we had for dinner or what I made last night.
Yep. And so, what are you making these days? What's your kind of go-to meal right now?
Anything with pasta. We're a running family, so they want carbs, and so pasta is our go-to, and it's a good pantry staple.
Yeah, all the I won't be mad about that.
Yeah.
Pancakes, pasta, yes.
Bread, yes.
Yes. And I'd love to see in the chat box too what everybody else is eating out there, because I need some more creative ideas on how we can play with this pantry situation. So, okay, we talked about eat. So then craft. How did you do the craft? How did you get into the craft part of that? But then what made you fall in love with art and crafting?
So I have always been that kid who wanted, like, they would take me to the toy store and that was the aisle I would head to. And I can't even say toy store, the BX, because again, I grew up overseas. And you have like those Crayola molding clay blocks and all that. And like, that was my happy place. My mom would laugh because my siblings would go to the toy aisle.
Yes.
And they would find me in the office supply aisle with the markers and the crayons and the clay. And it's just always been my happy place. Both my grandparents were, on my mom's side, were very creative. My grandmother was a sculptor and my grandfather an architect, but also did lots of pen and ink and stuff. So I think it's in my veins to some extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I found it doesn't matter how chaotic my world gets, whether we're in the middle of a PCS or a quarantine or sick kids and you just can't get out and do what you need to do or whatever, that I can always find 5 or 10 minutes here or there to just, even if I'm just doodling circles on a piece of paper, it's very calming to me. So.
And are you self-taught or did you take classes or?
Well, a few classes here and there with like at a community center or, those kind of things. I would take a class at the skills center on base here, but most of it's self-taught, just trial and error, playing around. My grandmother taught me to sew, but she didn't believe in patterns. So I'm horrible at that as far as following a pattern.
So fun. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. So, I kind of just see something and try to duplicate it until I get it the way I want and usually learn something in the process.
Love it. And you guys, she's crazy talented. As you can see, she is the designer of Brittany Bakker's Finding Your Color in a Camouflage, or Finding Your Color in a Camouflage World. And so you did all of this. You designed this and the color and everything like that?
Well, bought the graphic and then interlaid colors on top of it, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I was going to say that is detailed. I would not
No.
be able to do that, but that is beautiful. I love that. So what is your go-to medium? Do you use watercolor? Do you use acrylic, or would you rather just kind of get a couple things of whatever and just create?
I don't, that's part of my challenge is I don't have a niche, just whatever. Okay. I don't have a go-to. I go in phases. I drive my husband crazy because we have Hobby Lobby in our house because I just, textures. I'm more a texture and a color person than an actual medium. It's whatever is talking to me at that moment.
Well, I think people appreciate having a creative friend like you because you can inspire them to do kind of all kinds of fun things and crafty ideas. So do you, with your talent that you have, do you give like as gifts? Do you give your art away?
I do. Yeah, I do.
What kind of things do you gift people?
Well, I just made, my oldest just had her 22nd birthday. And I made an Afghan for her. Okay. We left her in Texas after our last PCS. That was a really hard move. And so I just needed to send her something to wrap herself up in mom. So that's where that came from. I've done cross stitch. I've done some paintings. I've made handmade notepads for people with decorations that are personalized and that kind of stuff. So.
Do you have anything that would come to mind that we as military spouses could create now? And I mean, we could even use the craft that we're doing today. I don't want to give anything away. Yeah. But something like that, while we're home, with kids, without kids, to maybe give to our neighbors, leave on the doorsteps. Any ideas come to mind with that?
I think just a good old fashioned note card. It doesn't even have to be fancy, but that you just draw a picture on and you leave it on a windshield or in a door, just to, hey, I'm thinking about you, and a picture. And I can even say getting something in the mailbox, whether it's been dropped off by a neighbor or, actually through the mail, just brings a smile to your day and lets you know that you're thought of.
Yeah.
And I'm a card saver because I usually recycle them into something else. But if I get a handmade card, it stays around much, much longer.
Yeah, same. So. I know. You go into one of my drawers and every time we PCS, my cards, stash gets bigger and bigger. Yes. It means so much when somebody sends me a card. So that's something I hold on to. Excellent. Okay, good. So we all can take time out of our day and design a card or whatever, and let's leave it on our neighbor's doorstep, or like you said.
Well, and I say our neighborhood is doing we live on base in Alabama, and they have encouraged us to all put up signs in our windows or something to like, because everybody's out walking more and spending more time, just to let them know you're thinking about them. So even like that, I mean, and it's been so simple as people have cut out hearts and turned it into an American flag in their window. So that's just anything like that. I love seeing things that people have taken the time to create.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of thank you notes on mailboxes too. So I thought that was really sweet. Hearts and stuff like that. So I love it. I love a thoughtful gift. Okay, so run. So I love this one. How did you become a runner? And we'll start there, and then I have more questions on top of that. So
okay. So I married a runner. And like one of our first dates, we went running together, and that basically meant I was trying to die and he was happy as a clam. And I think very quickly then I decided I was not a runner. And I have to caveat, anybody who knows my husband knows he's an ultra marathoner. He's run 100 miler. He's crazy gifted and talented at running. And so I always told myself I wasn't a runner, that I couldn't do that. And when we had our youngest and we lived in England, my other three were in school then, and my husband had just taken a command. And so he was gone a lot. And I just started putting the little one we bought a jogging stroller because the theory was my husband was going to run with him a lot. And I decided, you know what, I can do this. And it was ugly. I mean, it was like a 15-minute mile when I first started.
But that's okay. Yeah.
It was. And I got there, and I think I had been doing it for about 3 months before I finally actually even told my husband, hey, you know what, I'm running. And he's like, really? Like, what do you mean by that? And so we went to the track, and it sparked a connection that he and I had never had. His schedule is crazy, but was then. And he had set a goal for him that year. He wanted to run every day for the full year.
Wow.
And so that kind of became our time. We would go out in the mornings and just a 30-minute run, the two of us. And because I was such a newbie and he wasn't, I would run, and to try to keep my mind off of the pain I was in. He would talk to me and he would tell me stories, and it was great processing for him. But it also, I learned so much about him and about the things that he was doing with his job, and the concerns he had about the airmen he was working with, and that kind of stuff. And so it was a great time for us to connect. And it kind of morphed from there. As we were leaving England, I decided to do a half marathon.
Yes.
And then we got back to the States, and he was pretty quickly, I have to go back and say our oldest at that time also had started running cross country in school. And so I was like, oh yeah, like they're all runners, I should do this. And I had an 8-year-old, well, at the time I think it was an 8 or 9-year-old boy. So, they don't walk, period. They run everywhere. And so this was kind of a way for me to connect with my kids. Well, we got back to the States, and they very quickly got pulled into this thing called Ragnar. I don't know if anyone out there has heard of it, but it's this 200-mile relay that you do with a team of 12 people.
Okay.
And you run shorter segments. Like, I mean, overall, I think the longest you run is like 20 or 25 miles, and it's broken into 3 segments. And they did one, and every now they really needed a 12th person for the team. And they were like, come on, Molly. And I'm like, no, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. They came back from that it was my husband and our oldest, having had so much fun that the next time I came down, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this with y'all.
Yeah.
And it was a blast. It was an absolute blast. And so from there, it kind of morphed. And I decided maybe I could actually do a marathon.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
And went on to do a second one. So it was crazy. I never would have considered myself a runner. But I am in a family of runners. Like I said, my oldest boy is an amazing runner. I saw Brittany pop on earlier, and she can tell you watching him run is like, it's just a gift. He has found his happy place on the track, and watching him do it is an amazing thing and inspirational. And so they have encouraged me, and I can now say, if I can run, anyone can run.
Yeah, same. And y'all, a marathon is 26.2 miles, just so you know. Oh boy. And half marathon, half of that, 13.1. So Yeah, that's fantastic. And I mean, I can definitely, you know, with your story, stick with like how you're saying, was never a runner. And then you're saying, but then I became a marathon. You know, I did a marathon. I was the same way. And I could only run maybe 1 or 2 miles. And then my husband went on deployment and I thought, well, I better figure out a hobby. So I'm gonna run a marathon. And I think there's a movie out there about this. And you know, people were kind of like, you're crazy, you can't run, that's so far. And I'm like, well, now that you said that I probably can't do it, I'm gonna do it. And then 3 months later, after the, you know, training and following through with everything, I ran a marathon, and I've run 3, I think, since then, and a handful of a half marathon. So anybody can do it for sure.
You can.
Yeah, just start small and then dream big, and then it kind of gets addicting in a way. But now it's tough for me. I can't, it's hard for me to break away and do lots of runs, but just start small. And now I thoroughly enjoy just taking a nice walk around the block. So kind of ebbs and flows. Are you still running, or what are you doing right now?
Not like I was. But I'd say probably once a week. My husband, he's still on his streak. So it's over 10 years now of running every day.
Wow.
And so we usually start our mornings. We have a little quiet time, and then he'll go head out for 30 minutes at least. Yeah. And I'd say once a week, he's like, hey, why don't you come run, walk? And he calls it his easy day. I call it my not easy day. Yes. But we'll go out with the dogs and we'll run maybe 1.5 miles, and then walk 1.5 miles. And it's just a good chance to spend time together. There's no kids interrupting us. There's no cell phones binging, no text messages, no anything. So it is a nice way to kind of reconnect and unwind or let go of it for a little while.
And I feel like now's a really good time just to get out and try it. If you're not into it or have never been interested in it, now is the time where you could, you know, start with 5 minutes of just running. And there's a lot of great groups out there too. You mentioned the one that you just did, or the race that you just did, but I've heard of stroller warriors. Those are on military bases around the world. I don't think they're probably getting together now, but you know, in the future, check it out. And then do you know of any others out there?
I know there are a lot of virtual races.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And I have done a run Disney. My oldest and I did the Princess, I can't think of what they call it, the Princess Challenge, which is the 10K and the half marathon. Okay. That was her senior trip. And I just heard the other day that they're doing a Star Wars virtual this year, and you just have to run a half marathon over a month. So you can even do like a 1/2 mile a day, as long as you add up to the 13.1, and you get the Millennium Falcon medal when you sign up for this virtual race. So
very cool.
Anybody can do that.
Dress up like a Disney character when you ran the race?
No, we dressed up as princesses. We had
tutus. Okay.
Yes, and we ran in tiaras. We really did. And we had little tutus. We had different colors for every day. It was an absolute blast.
Oh, I love it. I feel like there's something there for all of us with this virtual running thing. So let's look into that. Let's think about this. We could all do it together. Just our group. Okay. So you said you've done half marathons, Disney races, and what was the last one you said? Can you say
Ragnar? Ragnar.
Okay. We're going to check that out. Okay. So I know that you have done homeschooling. You're currently doing homeschool. Like, you've been a homeschool teacher. So for the parents out there that this is now their new normal and they've never done this before, and now it's an everyday thing, what advice, what tips, what questions have you been getting from your friends that are now in this space? Give us all you got. Tell us everything.
So my biggest thing, and I actually was talking to someone about this the other day, and it's a challenge, I think, with what the schools are expecting and what we're actually, like the way I teach as a homeschooler. My favorite place to teach is in the kitchen. And I will give my kids a recipe. It's sequencing, it's reading, it's following directions, it's measuring. Back when we could actually go out, I would have them build their grocery list and do the math of, you have this much money, what can you buy? What can we substitute? How do we, and so there's so much school that can take place outside of a traditional classroom setting. And it's a great time to spend time with them, and they don't even realize they're learning. Like, my 8-year-old has been doing fractions for about 2 to 3 years because he cooks with me. And he didn't even know that he was doing fractions. And when he opened up his book this year, he was like, "Hey, Mom, I know this." I was like, "Yes, you do." So it's a great way to kind of sneak in. And so my biggest advice is grace. Give yourself and them grace. We are all in a crazy trying time, and everybody's schedule is abnormal. And then think outside the box. It doesn't have to be the traditional worksheet thing that we did. And sometimes, especially for boys, the hands-on tends to seal it a little more than the actual sitting there doing the work. When my sons can see that, oh, I have a whole apple and now I've cut it into 4 pieces and then 8 pieces, and then, and that's just snack time.
Right.
And we've covered math. So
I love that.
Yeah. And then my biggest struggle when I started homeschooling, and I was raised in a traditional school, my father-in-law is a retired teacher, was I expected our day to look like a school day. We were busy from 8 to 3. We took a little bit of lunch. We had a little bit of recess. And the reality is, when we're at home, it's not nearly that long. And both my boys are gifted math kids, so they spend very little time on math because they pick it up and we move on. My oldest loves writing. Actually, both my girls love writing. And so that they'll spend hours in it because they enjoy it. But as far as the rules, they get it and move on. So we don't spend as much time, and our school days are done fairly early. And I think that's a struggle kids are having right now, of sitting in front of the computer for that many hours every day. My husband, I don't like it. My husband doesn't like it. Like, as someone in the workforce, we're like, no way. Why would we want to do that? So why are we asking our kids to do it?
Well, and if anybody has any questions too, make sure you ask in the Q&A box, and Molly can help you out with that throughout this chat too, because she is an expert in this field. So that.
I don't know about an expert, but I have graduated one. We're about to graduate a second. My oldest has already graduated college, so I feel like I didn't mess her up too bad. So
you're in the, you know enough, probably a lot more than most. But I love that. Like, just make it fun, and throughout your day, like, I never thought, for your groceries, even if you're doing it and where you go online and you make it and you pick it up, like, it's all right there. You can just get your calculator out and say, okay, when we go pick this up at the curbside, if that's available, you do the math there. And I love that.
Yes. So, and then you've covered multiple things, because they're getting, especially in the kitchen, they're getting to eat the snack, so they're happy, and you don't have to, then you can also, part of cooking is cleaning up, so you get them to do the dishes. And
do you do a lot of science projects? Like, what would you recommend a fun science project?
We just did with the 8-year-old. I just did a study on the solar system.
Okay.
And Pluto is back to being a planet, for those of you who are curious.
Good to know.
He's dwarf. I had to learn about that. But, and we made a big poster board. And again, hands-on. He got to paint his planets. We did them in 3D. We made a poster board. And then he presented it to Dad. And he thought it was the coolest thing to, like, kind of get to stand up there. And so just the things that they look forward to in school, like posters or presentations, or there's no reason you have to have a schoolroom to do that. You can do it in real life, and you can even, FaceTime in grandparents and that kind of stuff, and get the encouragement. And especially when you're in elementary school, like, that puts you on the top of the world. Like, hey, I want to be on FaceTime. And
and to present something that you just learned, that's so exciting. So I love that. Oh, so many great ideas. Okay, so we can jump into the craft, and then as we have questions coming, we can have Danielle kind of jump in, and I'll pause real quick, because Danielle, what are you seeing out there in the chat box? What's sparking the interest out there?
She's like, what are you guys doing over there? Everyone's having a lot of fun over here chatting. People have already found your Facebook group, Molly, and have said that they love it. We've had people sharing ideas for what they want to craft today, and people are eager to see each other's crafts. So we've invited everyone to check out Molly's Facebook group, check out the USO's Military Spouse Facebook group, and as you're taking photos of today with your crafts and such, make sure to tag us. So all of that fun stuff's in the chat. If you missed any of it, let us know. And then latest in the chat has been some reactions to these homeschooling tips. So everyone is just very grateful for that and sharing what their experiences have been. And we have another experienced homeschooling mom she said she did 11 years. She's on the call with us as well. So yeah, but no questions so far. All wonderful reactions, and we're having fun here.
Perfect.
I did see somebody just pop up about trying to take time every day, and I think it's so important to just take. We call it 12-minute art in our house, because you can find 12 minutes anywhere in your day to just, the kids and I will all sit down, piece of paper, watercolors, markers, whatever. There's no rules. There's no right or wrong. They just get to color, and sometimes, you know, I look over and someone's aggressively going at it, and I note to self, okay, we'll kind of touch base later. How you feeling? And some days it's real light and airy, and you just kind of know they're in a good space. And it's a good check-in with yourself too. In 12 minutes, I mean, printer paper and markers at the kitchen table, and everybody's good to go.
I love that. And we could all use 12-minute art in our days too.
Yes. Yes.
That's perfect. Oh, so many good tips today. Oh, I love this. All right. Can you guys tell, like, today is a good day. Let's do the craft. We are going to get fancy again and show a camera from up above.
Maybe.
Check out this video. Look at that. Okay,
Okay,
great.
there we go.
I'm going to take my video down, but I am going to craft along with you. So know that I'm here, and I'll chime in as we go, but I'm going to let you, these two screens, be the center of attention. So I'm going to hand it off to you, and here we go.
Okay. Well, there's a little story behind this. So I have always had a fascination with sign language, and it came to me in college when I had a deaf student in a couple of classes that I was also in, and I would spend time, I actually was hired by the college to share my notes with him, but I would spend time after the class talking to him and his interpreter, getting to know the different innuendos of sign language, because they have a slang, they have all kinds of stuff like we do with our spoken language that you don't realize. And one of the things that I learned was, we all know this as I love you. I'm trying to figure out best ways to show it to you. But they also will do it where they cross these two fingers, like, and that's the letter R in sign language. And what the reason behind this symbol is, this is I, this is L for love, and this is Y for you. And so it came this, but when you put the R in there, it's I really love you. And so one of the things that I have done our whole military career is I always walk my husband to the door and say goodbye to him and wave to him every morning as he leaves for work. My rule was, if the street lights were still on, I would go back to bed. So I loved our time in North Dakota and Alaska, when some nights, the nights were really long and I could sleep in and feel justified by it. But when COVID started, this actually came about with a homeschool project I was working on, but when COVID started and the social distancing started, I realized how much we could communicate without having to be near, just by, you know, simple symbols. And I still walk out and do this to my husband every morning. I did it this morning. So what I thought we could do is make our own I love you signs. And I'm going to bring up I taught this to my family over the weekend to kind of show them, or to test out. But this is my youngest, and he literally traced his hand, and it says, I love you, KK. That's what he calls our oldest, who he's really missing. But basically what I'm going to have you do is trace out your hand on a piece of scrap paper, and then you get to color it in any way. That's my 17-year-olds. And then you get to, we're going to put it on a piece of paper and you can share it. My youngest made these for my husband and I for Valentine's Day, and my husband has it hanging in his office. I have mine over my computer. This is our 15-year-olds. And then I love this one because when I was teaching it this weekend, just kind of practicing, my husband did his. And I did learn an important tip from him. So when you trace your hand, you're actually going to have the palm side glued on the paper. So it looks like this. This is the palm of my hand, and you can see the fingers folded over. But he didn't quite get that, so he drew the whole back of his hand. He even put his Garmin on there for you runners. He has listed some of the races that I have been to with him or that we've done together. And so he decided he was going to show me at the finish line as he was running up, and he's giving me the I love you symbol. And so this is his view, which is why it's the back of his hand. So you can get as creative as you want. And I chose, when I did it and I was teaching the kids, teaching the rest of my family to color my hand. But then I also had the thought that you could color your background and make a white hand if you'd rather. So it is super, super simple, super easy. Piece of white paper. This is actually a scrap paper from my printer bin, where, you know, things don't quite print right or I need new ink and I don't realize it. Put your hand down. And this is also why it's great for kids, because you can get their age, you know, their hand at certain ages. Grandparents would love this these days when you can't go out and hug them or see them. If your spouse is deployed, this would be, to me, such a meaningful gift to receive. If my husband were to send this to me while he was deployed, just sort of something tangible of his. So you just trace your hand. I did it very lightly. I'm not even sure if y'all can see it, in pencil. And then very simply, we're going to color it in whatever you want, however you want. There are no rules. There is no right or wrong, except remember that the part that's going to be showing is your palm. And then as we fold it down, the back part of these fingers is going to show. So you will want to, I colored mine and then cut it out and then colored the back of my fingers. So completely up to you, but I'm just going to do a very simple, no, I'm not, because that marker's done. Look at you. Yes, I mean, it's easy. And so I'm just going to do some very simple little line drawings. And again, there is no right or wrong to this. There's just some color. Or not. If you wanted to do it black and white, you could totally do that too. You know, it's kind of my 16-year or 15-year-old, when she did it in the colors of her room because she wants to hang it up in her room. And it kind of expresses her favorite colors.
I'm going to go with some spring colors here.
There you go. And I'm going very fast. You can have the kids take as long as they want on this. I will tell you, boys tend to do it very quickly because they just like to be done. It's usually a race to them. And I'm just doing very simple lines. You could even do this where you painted a whole sheet and then traced your hand and cut it out. You could, I know Brittany has done a thing with the Down syndrome kids where they kind of had them all placed on a, like put a little bit of ink or paint rather on a canvas, all in different shapes. And then it was a painting done by all the kids. So you could even do that. You know, if you had a younger child who couldn't handle painting in the lines or something, you could have them paint all over a piece of paper. And then when it's dry, cut their hands out, or even color all over a piece of paper. So to me, it's very important to embrace the age and the stage they're at right then. My husband, like I said, he did his running, kind of brought in a piece of who he was, so I wouldn't miss him quite so much. So
It's so fun, and it kind of makes you think like, okay, what design do I want to put on here? Like, this is therapeutic.
And I will warn you, it is slightly addicting because I think I've done 4 or 5 of them now, because different moods will strike. And like, I wanted to try it with the painted background but I do know, to me, again, I'm a very touchy-feely person. I like hugs, which is challenging right now when you can't give them.
Right.
And so to have that little piece of my husband like that, not that I can't hug him, you know, we're not social distancing, but I think about if they're deployed,
right,
or you're in that space right now, like to be able to have something tangible, I would think for kids or even adults would be very comforting.
Yeah, it would mean a lot to me if I received something like this from anybody at this point.
Right.
No?
And I don't know about you. Like I said, I'm a hugger. I'm a touchy-feely person. So this social distancing, you know, I see my friends and I know either they're having a good day and I want to give them a hug and celebrate with them, or they're having a bad day and I want to go give them a hug to help them feel better. And to not be able to do those things is challenging.
Right. Yeah, I'm a hugger too. If I meet you, I usually don't give you a handshake. I'm usually giving you a hug. So
Right.
that can either scare people or people really like it.
Yes.
So,
And that's hard. I mean, the things that I didn't think of as we were going into this time, I'm like, oh, I can hunker down. I can do this. You know, I can clean out and live out of my pantry for a month because every PCS has taught me that.
right.
I didn't think through what do you mean I can't hug someone when I meet them, see them at the commissary for the first time in 3 days,
Yeah.
or you know, like,
You have
so
to like pause and wait. It's odd.
yes.
But still, I've noticed being out in the neighborhood and just doing our daily walks, I have noticed a lot of people making more eye contact, smiling, saying hi, and that simple wave, that could go such a long way. So I kind of, you know, really want to see that throughout my walks every day, because that's the way I can get my hugs in, is that friendly
Yes.
smile and a wave.
I've been trying to, I will say, think of, I've been going over sayings in my head, and what letters I can do in this fashion on a piece of paper. And I can't come up with the saying yet that doesn't have, like, O is hard to do. You know, it's like this. So it's hard to do in 3D where you can actually read it. But I've been trying to figure out what I could put in this fashion in a window.
Oh, yeah.
Because I don't know if all my neighbors want me to tell them I love them, you know.
Right. Yeah. I'm seeing a lot of stuffed animals in the windows now too, which
Yes.
I love. My son, we saw a Winnie the Pooh and we're like, oh, look, there's Pooh Bear. And then he doesn't know who Pooh Bear is, but he heard Pooh Bear. And so he's like, ew. So that's unfortunate. We're going to have to give him a lesson on Winnie the Pooh.
I have my old neighborhood in Texas. I'm still in their next door group on the app. And they did a bear hunt where people put bears in their windows and then the kids could go around and get the addresses of the bears.
Yes, I love that. That's brilliant.
So I have now colored all mine in. Like I said, I went very quickly. And then you just simply cut it out, and I'll give you my cutting tip. So hold your scissors straight in front of you and turn your paper. And it will help you get smoother lines and less choppy, especially turns. You know, if you're turning your scissors to try to get the right angle, all of a sudden you're all kind of wonky like this. And,
yeah.
And so if you turn your paper, it helps you get smoother lines too. And then I know I said you're going to hold your fingers down. So like my 17-year-old was like, why am I coloring this? And I said, well, I'll show you. Because if you're using thinner paper, which like I said, scrap pile.
Yeah.
You know, I just thought that would be fun to do a collage on it, like out of a magazine. Like if you could find like pictures of flowers out of a magazine and cut them out and make a collage on your hands, that would be a lot of fun. My mother-in-law is a gardener. Maybe I'll do that for her. So when you fold it down or flip it over, you can kind of see what your backside looked like and what you did. And because I want all my fingers to match, because I just have that little bit of OCD in me, I can just see what I did and go right back over it. And I would love to see everyone's interpretation of this, because I don't know, I stumbled on this. I did it with our homeschool. We have a homeschool co-op we're part of. And I did it with the kids to give to their parents for Valentine's Day. And it's been fun. It was fun to see how all the different, you know, the different takes the kids all had on it. And everyone's comes out a little different, which I think shows so much of our personalities.
You flipped it over and now you're decorating the middle, or the
middle two fingers on the back. Yes.
Gotcha. I'm a slow cutter. Sorry.
That's okay. And that's the 12-minute art in me, because usually I'm like trying to think ahead to what's the next thing we're going to do to entertain the kids. So I've already moved on in my head. But I did want to get this done and kind of show everybody how, like, just the general idea of what it looks like.
Yeah. I'm curious to see in the chat box, are people doing this or are they just watching us?
And then after you get it all colored and you've done your 2 fingers on the back side, just put a little glue stick on the white part of the back side, which is kind of nice because then you know, especially if you're doing it with kids, you know where to put the glue, because you can tell them only cover the white part in glue. Stick it down on your piece of paper. And then you will see that these 2 are not glued down. And so I just put a little dab on each fingertip here and folded them down. Now, I will say my boys creased. Actually, that's not true. My husband and my younger 2 creased. I like to leave, I'm trying to show you, I'll figure out which angle is the best, a little loop so it's actually like my fingers are bent. And there you go. Now, in both my husband and I, actually, I guess everybody did, kind of opted to, like I said, his was running. So they wanted to, he put different races he's done all around the edges just to kind of frame his picture. My 15-year-old just drew all over hers, little squiggles and hearts and just a little bit of expression of her personality there. My 17-year-old left it blank, which I really think makes his hand pop. I have to say I love his masculine rainbow here.
I know, I love that.
Yeah, he did. I'm pretty impressed with that. And then my 8-year-old took a cue from Dad, and this is actually, so he plays a lot of PlayStation with my oldest and her boyfriend, and so he drew the TV and the 2 of them playing PlayStation together because he plans on sending it to her. And then I just did a little squiggle edges on mine. So, but I think there's so much you can do and so much personality, and it's one that never gets old because it never has to be the same twice. And
Right.
There's always someone who can use an I love you, grandparents, neighbors, friends, older kids if they've moved out, cousins, aunts and uncles, the list is endless of who you could send this to if you just needed somebody to have a pick-me-up through the day. So we've gone back to it a few times. I'm sure we will again.
This is great. And you could put the whole families on the same, somehow, some way.
You could probably make like a fold-out card, like a giant card to send to a grandmother that unfolded. That's what got me started thinking on letters. Was our oldest was not here for her birthday, and in 22 years, it's the first year we've ever been apart on her birthday, so it was a little hard. And we were thinking about, I was trying to figure out how we could send her like happy birthday or something in a card that was all done in our hands and unfolded. It didn't dawn on me till the night before her birthday, so I didn't get it done. But
I love it. And then you guys can see this one.
Oh, see, yeah, I love it. Oh, and you used colored background paper. I didn't think through that.
Construction paper. We have some here, so it's pretty exciting.
No, I just used plain old white paper. So there is one, I did try it where I painted the background and left my hand white. But I like your idea of still doing your hands and then doing it on colored construction paper. I'm trying to figure out how to turn this off now, y'all.
Okay, and I'm gonna see if I can get it so it's just us again.
Okay.
I think it's good. All right, good. So we have all of this. Does anybody have, and then you recommend then just kind of creating around it, whatever you want.
It's completely up to you. I think there is no wrong way. I think that it's a fun, those who are minimalists, which my son is, the one who just did his hands, he is much more of a minimalist, so he didn't want on there. My younger two and myself, we want a little more bling around the edges. So
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Good. This is such a great idea. And Danielle, do we have any questions from anybody, or what's happening in the chat box right now?
No questions, but when you asked who was doing it, lots of people chimed in. Some people are doing it with their kids. Some people are multitasking right now, but making their list of all the family members they want to send these to. Someone did it with their kids and they wrote who they're missing right now. And they're going to
oh, I
send
love it.
videos out to family of the kids doing it. We've been talking about a pen pal revival because you've inspired us all to be not just crafty, but you know, the meaning behind these handwritten cards and crafts that are handmade with lots of love and sending them out to people. But let me see, don't see a question. I will start to drop in those Facebook links again. I think someone had a question about Facebook. So yeah, but no questions so far. So we'll invite you guys, if you have any questions, to throw them in the Q&A box. And we're also keeping an eye on the chat.
Love it.
I have a question for everybody out there. Are the kids enjoying it? If they could chime in and let me know. My husband even was like, oh, this was a lot of fun. I could do this again. So like there's just something therapeutic to me about tracing your own hand and then kind of like how you see yourself and putting that out there. So.
Well, especially if you have little ones too, then you could do it every year or just progressively do it and you see how their hand gets bigger and bigger.
Yes.
That's pretty cool. I love that.
Molly, actually, we do have a question. Someone
Okay.
would like to share this activity on her Facebook page. It is, and that is in the chat. Everyone can see that there. It's Adapt for Active Duty at Fort Campbell. So she would like to share it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, can she share this video when it's done? I don't know how that works, so.
Yeah, this video will be up in a couple of days on our USO website. So we'll make sure we have it up there and then you can just share the link from there. Absolutely.
All right.
Cool.
And then for everyone else asking just how to share photos of their creations, I'm going to throw those Instagram and Facebook handles in the chat again. This is so awesome to see that so many people are asking, is there a place we can share photos? So absolutely.
Yes, and tag me in anything. I'd love to see it. I love just seeing other people's creativity and seeing the spark they get when, you know, that little glint in your eye when you've made something that makes you smile. So.
Yeah, I definitely needed this today. And what we also like to do, Molly, is we like to hold up our mugs, and we're going to get you a USO mug. That's happening. But I love the mug that you're drinking out of. What's it say?
Military wife.
Well, let's everybody cheers with your mugs and take a selfie with Molly and I and your creation. I don't know, that might be a lot. Really hard to do a selfie with 2 hands.
Yeah, that might be a bit
to
much.
get a picture of Molly and I and our hands and your hands, and we'll hold these up for a second so you can take a picture. Awesome. Okay, I hope we got some pictures out there. Use the hashtag I see on there. Yeah, hashtag USOCC Live. We also like the hashtag USO MilkSpouse and the tags at the USO and let's see here, at eat.craft.run. There's lots out there, and yeah, a lot of fun stuff going on right now. So we
saw a request for our hands and mug.
I'm so sorry. Yes, exactly.
Oh, yes? I can do
Thank
this.
you, Molly.
Okay, we'll go slow. Okay, here we go. I think that's good. Hopefully. If not, we'll have this up again on the recorded version so you can see it. People watching the recorded version are probably like, what's happening? Why are they just smiling at the camera? But that's cool. You guys can, if you were watching the recorded version of this, know that we do this live so then you can join in on the fun. We're doing it weekly now. So for everybody that is joining us right now, we're doing these weekly just so we can all make time for ourselves to get together, have coffee, have conversation with each other. We love this. So I hope you guys do too. And for your awareness, we do have a lot coming up. We are going to, we're on standby for questions if there's other questions out there, but we wanted to also let you know that next week we are going to have a Coffee Connection live with Corey and Matt Weathers, one of our favorite military couples, at 8 p.m. Eastern time, and it's Managing Your Marriage from Home. So please join us for that. Danielle will make sure to put these links up in the chat box. And then on April 23rd at 3 p.m. Eastern time, we have Elise the Diva Chef Harris. She was a participant on Hell's Kitchen, so that's pretty exciting, and has a lot of great things to teach us about nutrition and working out. And then on April 29th, we have at 1 p.m. Eastern time, Discovering Your Spark with our friend Brittany Bacher. And again, I'll show her workbook that Molly designed or painted. It's so pretty. I love it. See? So you'll get to go through this workbook with Brittany if you sign up for that workshop on the 29th. We also have a pack edition for our friends out in the Pacific, and Danielle will get that information up. And then on May 1st at 2 p.m., we are going to have a Coffee Connection live with Jim Brickman. So if you guys know who he is, or if you don't know who he is a best-selling piano artist and has some beautiful music that we're going to just connect with him, chat with, have a quick conversation, but really just sit back, relax, and listen to him play the piano. So really looking forward to that and spending some time with all of our upcoming guests. Make sure you check out our USO Facebook group, and then also everything that Molly has going on out there. Molly, how can the spouses continue to see what you're up to?
Well, I'm Eat, Craft, Run across social media, Facebook, Instagram. I have a sadly neglected blog that has been getting a little bit more of a facelift in this quarantine time. My schedule hasn't changed much because I was always homeschooling, but not having evening activities has opened up some more free time. So I'm slowly working through that. And I hope to start getting more quick, easy lessons or things, activities like this that you can do with kids up on there and on IG, on Instagram too. So
perfect. Well, we will all be following along because I loved everything you said today. It was so helpful. This was so fun. So make sure you all are eating and running and crafting. Eat, craft, run. And if you have any questions about running, let us know too.
Yeah.
We're happy to get you to where you want to be with that. And Molly, this has been so much fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much. Loved our time together. Thanks for having coffee with us. And yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today, and have a fabulous rest of the day. Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.